quite a bit of macroeconomic data. Let's touch on it briefly and the effect that it will actually have on the South African equity market, and also with regards to currency movements, because I just want to allude to some of the numbers that we saw from the JSE last week. Foreigners selling 2.8 billion rand worth of South African assets, 1.6 billion in the equity market, and 1.2 billion outflow from bonds.
Yes, I mean, I think if you take a look at it in the last day or two, that flow into the bonds has come back quite aggressively, and we saw the yields come down quite a bit in the last day or two. So initially last week, when there was a little bit of panic in the markets waiting for Bernanke's speech, money did flow out of South Africa quite aggressively. But after that speech on the 26th, the risk trade is back on, money flowing back into South Africa. You can see from the rand that was at about 7.30 all the way back down to about 7.07 now. So money flowing back in and the risk trade back on again.
Well, it's quite fascinating when you see what happened in Asia this morning. Equity markets in the positive, US having a very strong handover overnight, European markets also looking pretty strong. We're flat in South Africa at this stage. We're looking at around a 2.25% gain on the JSE in yesterday's session. Are we going to see this kind of benign movement? The market battling to find direction today, it seems.
Yes, well, we bounced really aggressively yesterday. Some of the shares were up about 3.5%, especially on the banking side. But we started to reach resistance levels on the top 40 Aussie, 27,000. Quite a strong resistance level there, and on the all share around 30,000, 30,300. So we had quite a pivotal resistance level at the moment, and those resistance levels are starting to hold at the moment. So a bit of a fight off between the bulls and the bears to see if they can get through those resistance levels. 27,000 on the top 40 is quite an interesting level. If we do break up above there, I think there'll be quite a lot of short covering. So at the moment, a bit of a fight off at this resistance level, Eleni.
Let's just touch on some of the news out in South Africa today, with the likes of Resilient Property concluding the deal essentially with the likes of acquiring the Boardwalk Shopping Centre in Port Elizabeth, a deal that is amounting to around 1 billion rand. We're starting to see quite a bit of consolidation coming through within the property sector. Do you expect this kind of trend to continue?
I think so. I think that the property sector has done really well over the last 2 or 3 years. The yields have been good. And I think that you really do need size as well. So you're seeing a lot of the smaller property funds get swallowed up by the bigger ones. You know, they can get better pricing from that. They get better debt as well that they can bring in, and better leverage as well. So I think that you will start to see some of these smaller property funds get swallowed up. It's quite a big purchase, a billion rand, and 500 million is going to be in cash. So not using too much gearing on that trade. So quite a good looking purchase by Resilient there.
And of course, we're actually hearing quite a bit of consolidation and mergers and acquisitions, and just acquisition news generally on the JSE. And of course, just yesterday we heard that Glencore actually bought a 14% stake in the likes of Optimum Coal. Spur out with a cautionary announcement today. A lot of speculation as to what Bidvest's next move will be. Take us through some of the key elements here. Is this a good opportunity for investors to buy into some of these stocks, or do you think that most of the speculation has actually been priced in and is being reflected in the share prices?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, I think on the M&A front, you know, with interest rates really low and banks slowly starting to give credit, you know, you're starting to be able to find assets at really good prices, and you can gear up with interest rates at a really low level. So I think on the M&A front, you'll carry on seeing acquisitions coming through from the bigger players into the smaller area, like Glencore into Optimum Coal. Whether you buy into the corporate actions, that's a different trade totally. So you have to wait and see, is the company that you're buying into really worth its weight, and take a really good look at the company that's being bought, and will there be share value for shareholders in that trade. So I think you can go into these trades, but you must take a longer term view, not just a short term view.
Well, let's also just touch on Spur announcing that it could, of course, be acquiring a company going forward. Do you think it's a South African asset? Can we speculate that it could be something on the continent? What are you reading into it, and do you think that it is a good time to buy into a stock such as Spur?
I think a lot of the food producers, retail food and retail food like Spur are all good at this moment. I think that if food inflation is going to continue, I think that they will carry on making good revenue. I think shareholders would like to see an acquisition that puts them into Africa more. So I think shareholders will be looking for that, but it's too difficult to speculate what it is at the moment. But I think that the food and beverage area is quite a good area to be in at the moment.
With regards to Bidvest, of course, company out with full year profit increasing by 8.5%, and a lot of speculation as to what the next move will be. We know that it's not doing anything with regards to spinning off its food division, but it seems that Grindrod has been a company that there is a lot of speculation purely because of the freight element. But we were chatting a little earlier, and you were saying that perhaps the financial financial service side of Grindrod could be of interest to Bidvest.
Yes, well, I think Bidvest went for Mercantile Bank earlier in the year. That fell through. They're always looking to buy companies in times of turmoil, Bidvest, and make really good purchases in very difficult economic times. And on the Grindrod side, Grindrod Bank is getting slightly bigger. They do a lot of forex as well, Grindrod Bank, and maybe it's something that Bidvest would look at. So rather stay away from the shipping side and take the banking arm. But as I say, it is speculation, but something that Bidvest could look at.
Let's touch on De Beers, also out with a few interesting numbers with regard to the increase of production. We know that diamond prices are starting to hit levels that we saw pre the crisis. Of course, Anglo American having quite a significant stake with regards to De Beers. How do you see this playing out for Anglo American going forward? A company that has actually been hard hit and is not really reflecting the prospects within the commodity cycle.
Yes, I think so. I think people are hitting Anglos quite aggressively because of its big holding in M-Plat, and they don't see the growth coming through there on vehicle sales around the world, and platinum getting pushed. So I think it's been hit unfairly in that respect. And I think if you take a look at the diamond side, De Beers earlier in the year really gave them about $230 million worth of revenue that they got out of De Beers. They're coming off a low base, and I think that you'll be surprised how much revenue that Anglos is going to generate from De Beers. So it's something to look at and something to keep your eye on. I think Anglo American under 280 Rand long term is a good buy, and it's something you should have in your portfolio.